Welcome to the University of Queens. Once again, I'm Dr. Tara, your visiting professor. We're on the yard today here at the campus of the University of Queens, and I'm excited about another week that I'm spending with you. On last week, we talked about our famous alum, Esther, who graduated from the University of Queens, and we took you through her process. Through our orientation, we took you through her registration, we took you through her application, we took you through her matriculation process, and then on to graduation and activation. And so now we're going to talk about her life as an alum. And listen, while she was at the University of Queens, she was on the dean's list. That means she had straight A's. And I'm here to tell you that in her life, after graduation, as a famous alum of the University of Queens, she still continued to bring her A game. Yes, not only did she get straight A's through the process, she continued to get straight A's through performance in life. And I want to invite you to be activated in your life, not just during preparation, but also during performance. And so we meet Esther once again after this crown has been put on her head in chapter 2, and then we see the process move into performance as she actually began to function as queen. And so I want to talk about Esther bringing her A game to life after graduation. All right, so A, write down A right now. A. Esther brings her A game. The first thing we see as we get to this part of the book of Esther is attire. She knew what to wear as queen. Look with me in chapter 5 as we continue to look at the book of Esther. Chapter 5, verse 1, it says, "On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace in front of the king's hall." So, number one, for this week, we see that Esther has on the proper attire. She knew how to dress like a queen. And when God has called you to be a queen, you have to look like it as well as act like it. She had the crown on her head, but it wasn't enough just to wear the right thing on her head. She also had to be in the proper attire. We see in this part of chapter 5, it begins by saying, "On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court in front of the king's hall." She knew what to wear. She knew where to be. And then we see that she knew exactly how to approach the king. So if you keep going, it said, verse 2, chapter 5, Esther, "When he saw Queen Esther standing in the court, he was pleased with her and held out his gold scepter for her to come. And Esther," this is still verse 2, chapter 5 of Esther, "approached and touched the tip of the scepter." So we see she knew how to approach the king. She had on the right attire. She knew what to wear and where to be. And then she knew how to approach the king. We see Esther bringing her A game. She had the right attire and she had the right approach. Then if we go down to verse number 3, it says, "Then the king asked, 'What is it, queen, that would be your request?'" She knew how to be in the right place with the right thing on to be asked the right question. She had the right attire. She knew how to make the right approach, and she knew where to be and how to look to be asked the right thing. We see the king ask her, "What is it that you need, Queen Esther?" And then if we go right down to verse number 4, we see that she knew what to ask and what not to ask. Look at verse 4. "If it pleases the king, let the king together with Haman come today to a banquet that we have prepared for him. I have prepared for him." So we see Esther not ask the exact thing that she really needed to ask about the salvation of her whole race of people, because at this point she still has not told the king exactly what race she is. But we see Esther ask a question before the real question. So she knew what not to ask first. So we see her in the right attire. We see her knowing the right approach. We see her knowing how to be in the right place with the right thing on to be asked the right question. And then we see her know what to ask and what not to ask. If we keep going down to verse number 7 of chapter 5 in the book of Esther, Esther replied, "My petition and my request is this. If the king regards me with favor, if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, let the king and Haman come tomorrow to a banquet I will prepare." She still has not asked the question that she really is yearning to ask. And guess what? She does not rush to ask that final question. She has the right attire. She has the right approach. She knows where to be and what to have on to be asked the right question. Then she knows what to ask and what not to ask. Now flip over with me to chapter 7 of the book of Esther. And here is getting to the good part. All of it is the good part, but it's getting juicy right here. And so the king and Haman went to dine with Queen Esther. And as they were drinking wine on that second day, the king asked, "Queen Esther, what is your petition? It will be given to you. Even up to half of the kingdom will be granted." Esther has an open door, but she still brings her A game. Queen Esther answered, "If I have found favor with you, if it pleases you, can you spare my people? This is my request." She waits to chapter 7, verse number 3, to ask the question that she really needed to ask. Spare my people. Don't let my people be annihilated. Don't let my people, my race, be destroyed. She pleads with the king. And so we see Esther. She knows the right attire. She knows the right approach. She knows how to be, where to be in order to be asked the right question. Then she knows what to ask and what not to ask and when to ask. And then we see the king affirms that he will grant her request. And this is Esther bringing her A game. She does not abandon her people, even though she is in a high seat. And what happens is that sometimes people get comfortable with their crown, pretty in their power, and they never leave their throne to enter the work zone. They never leave their throne to enter the work zone. And so the position of power that you've been poised to possess is for you to actually use your power to help your people and other people as well. And so we can learn from this University of Queens alum, Esther, to bring our A game. It's not just enough to make A's when you're in school and in process and in preparation, but you got to make A's in life after graduation. Bring your A game to every area of your life. Have on the right attire, dress like a queen. Know the right approach. Know how to approach people in power and people who don't have power in your life that you assume. And also know what to ask, when to ask, and what not to ask. And then watch your request be affirmed. And in this, you will see that you are operating fully in your assignment. There's a term that's used often in media, termed lights, camera, action. And lights, camera, action are 3 words that signify that it is time to go forward in the filming of what's on set. But too often in our lives, especially during this social media time, we have the lights, we have the camera, but where's the action? It's time for us not to just be satisfied with lights, not to just be satisfied with cameras. It's time for us to not be satisfied fulfilling our assignment until we enter action mode. It's time to act. It's time to activate our faith and function fully in the assignment God has for you on this earth during this time. Lights, camera, action.